I'm going to finish up where I left off yesterday on the parable of the Phantom City. Right when he starts talking about the parable of the Phantom City. It's on page 174. It's chapter 7 of the Lotus Sutra. Once I finish, I'll probably go and read the notes from Nico Shonin that he took from Nichiren Daishonin's lectures called The Record of Orally Transmitted Teachings about this chapter. Okay, let us suppose, this is from the Lotus Sutra, volume 7, or chapter 7. Let us suppose there is a stretch of bad road 500 yojana long, steep and difficult, wild and deserted, with no inhabitants around, a truly fearful place, and suppose, whoops, I got to turn something off. And suppose there are a number of people who want to pass over this road so that they can reach a place where there are rare treasures. They have a leader of bright wisdom and keen understanding who is thoroughly acquainted with this steep road, knows the layout of its passes and defiles, and is prepared to guide the group of people and go with them over this difficult terrain. The group he is leading, after going part way on the road, become disheartened and say to the leader, "We are utterly exhausted and fearful as well. We cannot go any farther. Since there is still such a long distance ahead, we would like now to turn around and go back." The leader, a man of many expedients, thinks to himself, "What a pity that they should abandon the many rare treasures they are seeking and want to turn around and go back." Having had this thought, he resorts to the power of expedient means, and when they have gone 300 yojanas along the steep road, conjures up a city. So this is the Phantom City he conjures up. Don't be afraid. This is all his false teachings, his pre-Lotus Sutra teachings he's talking about. They're just phantom teachings. He must not turn back. You must not turn back, for now here is a great city where you can stop, rest, and do just as you please. If you enter the city, you will be completely at ease and tranquil. Then later, if you feel you can go on to the place where the treasure is, you can leave the city. At that time, the members of the groups, being utterly exhausted, are overjoyed in mind, exclaiming over such an unprecedented event. Now we can escape from this dreadful road and find ease and tranquility. The people in the group thereupon pressed forward and enter the city where, feeling that they have been saved from their difficulties, they have a sense of complete ease and tranquility. At that time, the leader, knowing that the people have become rested and are no longer fearful and weary, wipes out the Phantom City and says to the group, "You must go now. The place where the treasure is close by. That great city of a while ago was a mere phantom that I conjured up so that you could rest." And that's what he did to create nirvana. He said, you reach nirvana and then you'll be blown out and you don't have to go anymore. But that was just a expedient means. Monks, the thus come one is in the similar position. He is now acting as a great leader for you. He knows that the bad road of birth and death and earthly desires is steep, difficult, long, and far stretching, but that it must be traveled. It must be passed over. If living beings hear only of the one Buddha vehicle, then they will not want to see the Buddha, will not want to draw near him, but will immediately think to themselves, the Buddha road is long and far stretching, and one must labor diligently and undergo difficulty over a long period before one can ever attain success. The Buddha knows that the minds of living beings are timid, weak, and lowly, and so, using the power of expedient means, he preaches two nirvanas in order to provide a resting place along the road. If living beings choose to remain in these two stages, then the thus come one will say to them, "You have not yet understood what is to be done. This stage where you have chosen to remain is close to the Buddha wisdom, but you should observe and ponder further. This nirvana that you have attained is not the true one. It is simply that the thus come one, using the power of expedient means, has taken the one Buddha vehicle and, making distinctions, has preached it as three. The Buddha is like that leader who, in order to provide a place to rest, conjures up a great city, and then, when he knew that the travelers were already rested, said to them, "The place where the treasure is nearby. This city is not real. It is merely something I conjured up." At that time, the world-honored one, wishing to state his meaning once more, spoke in verse form, saying, "The Buddha, great universal wisdom, excellence, sat in the place of enlightenment for 10 kalpas, but the law of the Buddha did not appear before him, and he could not attain the Buddha way. The assembly of heavenly gods, dragon kings, asuras, and others constantly rained down heavenly flowers as alms offered to that Buddha. The heavenly beings beat on heavenly drums and made many kinds of music. A fragrant wind blew away the withered flowers, whereupon fresh and beautiful ones rained down. When 10 small kalpas had passed, then at last he was able to attain the Buddha way. The heavenly beings and people of the world, in their hearts... Hi, Gordon. I always see you, but I want to read this. In their hearts, all felt like dancing. That Buddha's 16 sons, all in company with their followers, 1,000, 10,000 millions of them gathered around. All came to the place of the Buddha, bowing at the Buddha's feet, touching heads to the ground, and entreating him to turn the wheel of the law, saying, "Sage Lion, let the Dharma reign. Fall in full upon us and all others. The world-honored one is very difficult to encounter. Only once in a long time does he appear, in order to bring enlightenment to the many beings. He shakes and moves the regions all around. In the worlds, in the eastern direction, in 510,000 million lands, the palace of the Brahma king glowed with a light they had never known in the past. When the Brahma kings saw this sign, they came in search of the Buddha's place, scattering flowers as a form of offering, at the same time presenting their palaces, entreating the Buddha to turn the wheel of the law, and praising him in verse. The Buddha knew that the time had not yet come, and though they entreated, he sat in silence. In the other 3 directions, and the 4 directions in between, and in the upper and lower regions, the same occurred. The Brahma kings scattered flowers, presenting their palaces, entreating the Buddha to turn the wheel of the law, saying, "The world-honored one is very difficult to encounter. We beg you, in your great mercy and compassion, to open wide the gates of sweet dew, and turn the wheel of the unsurpassed law. The world-honored one is immeasurable in wisdom, accepting the entreaties of the assembly, and for their sake proclaim various doctrines, 4 noble truths, the 12 link chains of causation, describing how from ignorance to aging and death all are produced through the cause of birth, saying, with regard to these many faults and vexations, you should understand this about them." When he expounded this doctrine, 610,000 million trillion beings were able to reach the end of their suffering, all attaining the status of arhat. The second time he preached the doctrines, a multitude like 1,000, 10,000 Ganges sands ceased to accept the things of the phenomenal world, and they too were able to become arhats. Thereafter, those who attained the way were immeasurable in number. One might calculate for 10,000 millions of kalpas and never be able to reckon their extent. At that time, 16 princes left their families and became Shramanaras. All together they entreated that Buddha to expound the law of the great vehicle, saying, We and our attendants are all certain to attain the Buddha way. We desire the wisdom eye of foremost purity, such as the World Honor One possesses. The Buddha understood their boyish minds and the actions they had carried out in the past existences, and, employing immeasurable causes and conditions in various similes and parables, he preached the 6 paramitas and matters concerning transcendental power, distinguishing the true law, the way practiced by bodhisattvas, preaching this Lotus Sutra in verses as numerous as Ganges sands. When the Buddha had finished preaching the sutra, he entered into meditation in a quiet room, with a single mind sitting in a single place, with 84,000 kalpas. The Shramaneras knew the Buddha would not yet emerge from meditation, and so, for the assembly of immeasurable millions, they preached the unsurpassed wisdom of the Buddha, each one sitting in the Dharma seat, preaching this great vehicle sutra. And after the Buddha had entered peaceful tranquility, they continued to proclaim, helping to convert others to the law. The living beings saved by each one of those Shramaneras were equal in number to 610,000 million Ganges sands. After that Buddha had passed into extinction, those persons who had heard the law dwelled here and there in various Buddha lands, constantly reborn in company with their teachers. For these 16 Shramaneras, having fully carried out the Buddha way, at present are dwelling in the 10,000. At present are dwelling in the 10 directions, where each has attained correct enlightenment. The persons who heard the law at that time are each in a place where there is one of these Buddhas, and those who remain at the stage of voice hearers are gradually being instructed in the Buddha way. I myself was numbered among the 16, and in the past preached for you. For this reason, I employ expedient means to lead you to the pursuit of Buddha wisdom. Because of these early causes and conditions, I now preach the Lotus Sutra. I will cause you to enter the Buddha way. Be attentive and harbor no fear. Suppose there was a stretch of steep bad road in a remote wasteland with many harmful beasts, a place moreover without water or grass, one dreaded by people. A group of countless thousands and 10,000s wanted to pass over the steep road, but the road was very long and far stretching, extending 500 yojana. At this time there was a leader, well informed, possessing wisdom, of clear understanding and determined mind, capable of saving endangered persons from manifold difficulty. The members of the group were all weary and disheartened, and said to their leader, "We are now exhausted and with fatigue, and wish at this point to turn around and go back." The leader thought to himself, "These people are truly pitiful. Why do they wish to turn back and miss the many rare treasures ahead?" At that time he thought of an expedient means. Deciding to exercise his transcendental powers, he conjured up a great walled city and okay, I'm just dozing off. I'm almost done. Man, I'm getting tired. He conjured up a great walled city and adorned its mansions, surrounding them with gardens and groves, channels of flowing water, ponds and lakes, with double gates and 10 towers and pavilions, all filled with men and women. As soon as he heard he had created this illusion. He comforted the group, saying, "Have no fear. You can enter this city and each amuse himself as he pleases." When the people had entered the city, they were all overjoyed in heart. All had a feeling of ease and tranquility, telling themselves that they had been saved. When the leader knew they were arrested, he called them together and announced, "Now you must push forward. This is nothing more than a phantom city. I saw that you were weary and exhausted and wanted to turn back in mid-journey. Therefore, I used the power of expedient means to conjure up the city for the moment. Now you must press forward diligently, so that together you may reach the place where the treasure is. I too do likewise, acting as leader to all beings. I see the seekers of the way growing disheartened in mid-journey, unable to pass over the steep road of birth and death and earthly desires. And therefore I use the power of expedient means and preach nirvana to provide them with a rest, saying, your sufferings are extinguished. You have carried out all there is to be done. Well, I know they have reached nirvana, and all have attained the stage of arhat. Then I call to the great assembly together and preach the true law for them. Finally, he's preaching the truth after 40-something years of preaching expedient preparatory teachings. The Buddhas thought the power of expedient means the Buddhas, through the power of expedient means, make distinctions and preach three vehicles, but there is only a single Buddha vehicle, Myoho Renge-kyo, that's a single Buddha vehicle. The two nirvanas are preached to provide a resting place. Now I expound the truth for you. What you have attained is not extinction. For the sake of the comprehensive wisdom of the Buddha, you must exert great effort and diligence. When you have gained such Buddha attributes as comprehensive wisdom and the 10 powers and are endowed with the 32 features, then this will be true extinction. The Buddhas, in their capacity as leaders, preach nirvana to provide a rest. But when they know you have become rested, then they lead you onward to the Buddha wisdom. And that's all for that chapter. I was going to read the meaning, but I'm too tired. I gotta get a work. Yesterday, right when I shut this off, I got the good offer. So I'm going to shut this off and I'm going to get a good offer. Watch this. Okay, I'll come back at you. I'm going to do it on Instagram. I go back and forth each chapter from Instagram to Facebook to Instagram to Facebook. All right, peace out. Chapter 8's next.